Today I'm with Dr. Celeste Welty, who's going to show us how to set up a corn earworm trap.
Okay, Bob, before we actually show the setup, let me just give a few words of introduction about this pest. This corn earworm is a really important pest of sweet corn, but it doesn't overwinter well in Ohio. It comes up from down south. It either flies up or blows up on the weather front, so we never know when it's going to arrive. It's usually August, but sometimes it's June or July. So we're really lucky that there's this really good kind of trap available that tells us whether or not the moth is here. And then once we know if it's here, we can adjust the intensity of our spray schedule depending on how many moths there are. Okay, the first thing you need to do your own corn earworm trap is something to hang the trap on. I usually use a 6-foot fence post, or a 7-foot is also fine, or you can use rebar. So that's the fence post. The ground's really hard today, so we're going to use one that's already pounded in right here. When you buy a brand new trap, this is the style we use. It's called a Century Heliothis trap. And one thing I want to show you is that when you buy these brand new, the only part of the trap I really don't like is this strap at the bottom. It's made out of elastic, and as soon as it's exposed to the outdoor conditions, it stretches and it's really not good. So the first thing I do when I buy a brand new trap is to just cut off that elastic band, throw it out. Get a piece of thin wire and or string, but string that won't stretch, and I wrap a little binder clip around it, and then I attach this right where the elastic band was. Okay, so once you get rid of the elastic strap and attach a binder clip to the wire, then you just stretch it across the bottom edge of the trap and wrap your wire around so it's relatively straight. Okay, then it's ready to go. The advantage is if you have that clip level with the bottom of the trap, it does a much better job of attracting the moths. Okay, so now we're ready to hang up the trap on our fence post. What you do is there's a tie right here at the top end. You just tie that on. There's another tie at the bottom end. You tie that on. And then the final step, this is the top part of the trap where the moths are going to be caught, and it has Velcro, and there's Velcro here. So you just press it into position so the Velcro grabs itself. And then there's another tie at the very top that holds it to the post. Okay, so now the trap itself is in position. That's all there is to it. The next step is attaching the part that's going to bring in the moth, and that's the pheromone lure. The brand of lure, there's several brands available, but I highly recommend the Hercon brand. That's what most entomologists use. It's called Hercon Lure Tape with Zeolure. They come in a package of 10 lures. Cost, by the way, cost. This trap costs about $55 or $60. It's available from either Great Lakes IPM or Gempler's. The lures cost about $17 for a packet of 10 lures. And each lure lasts 2 weeks. So if you get one packet, that'll pretty much do you for the summer of lasting 20 weeks. The lures are rectangular and orange. They're perfectly safe to touch. They won't hurt me, but I really try not to touch them because as soon as I touch them, my fingers are going to be highly attractive to the corn earworm moths, and I don't want them following me. So what I usually do is tear off a little piece of a leaf so that my fingers aren't actually touching the lure. And then what you got to do is simply, okay, so then you just reach under and grab the orange lure with that binder clip, and it's all set. Okay, so the orange lure smells like a virgin female of the corn earworm, and the only moth that should be attracted to this trap is the male of the corn earworm. The idea is they're attracted down here, they fly in, and then they end up being caught up here in the top of the trap. Okay, so now the trap is all set up. The only thing I forgot to mention, there is this little guy line that helps anchor the trap down, so you just have to push that in the soil at an appropriate distance. It just keeps it from flopping around excessively in the wind. Okay, now that's all there is to setting up a trap. The next thing I wanted to go over is what you do after that. What I recommend is at least 3 times a week. We usually do it Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. You got to check inside the trap and see if you've caught any of the target moth. So there are a few different ways you can do it. Early summer, when there are not a lot of moths around, what you do is you just untie that top, you pull the top off, and then you look in it. If you see any moths, they're often still alive because this is just, open to the air. You can't put a fumigant in there. So if you see a moth, they usually fly up to the top. You just sort of pinch through the trap to smush them. And then once you think they're all smushed, I put my hand in there like this, and I dump any of the moths out either onto a clipboard or into my hand, and I count them. But it is important to kill them, because if you don't kill them and you just set them free again, you might catch them again the same night. You don't want to do that. Okay? One thing I have available to anyone who's doing this for the first time, I have these little dishes that have a specimen of the corn earworm moth in it. Usually I have one a more beat up specimen and a better quality specimen. So after you've smashed them and counted them, I should mention there are a few other alternatives if you don't want to stand there and smash and count. One thing you can do is you can buy an extra trap top. They cost about $17, and it's very handy to have a spare. So what you do, you come up to the trap, you pull off the top that has moths in it, and then you just sort of fold it up, and you bring along a Ziploc bag. You open up the Ziploc, you put in the trap top, close it up. Then you can do a few things. I usually go put it in the deep freeze for an hour, and that kills any moths. Some people leave it on the dashboard of their truck where they think everything will be melted within an hour. And then if you have your spare trap top with you, then you put that one back on the trap. So you don't have to come back again to the trap later that day. Okay? So then once you get the trap top back on, you put the tie, then you're done for the day. Just make sure and replace that lure every 2 weeks. Okay? Now, one important thing is to write these numbers down. It really helps you in your operation, both within a year and the following year, if you keep track of this. So make up some kind of chart like I have here, where you write down what date you check them, how many moths are in the trap. Of course, the really important reason we use this at all is trying to help us choose an appropriate spray schedule. So this is a chart that is found in our Ohio Vegetable Production Guide, whether you have the hard copy or online. And what this shows is for different levels of corn earworm pest population, whether you figure that per day or per week, the number of moths per week, we come up with how often you spray, from no spray at all, or a 6-day spray schedule, down to a 2-day spray schedule. So the final point, Bob, is everything I've just talked about is corn earworm, but we use the identical style of trap for European corn borer. It's the same trap, we just have a different lure, and the decision rule for European corn borer is not as detailed as this one for corn earworm, but it still helps us determine whether the European corn borer is flying or not flying at any time.